All right, hello everyone out there on Facebook. This is Tommy Valentine with Historic Athens. We want to thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. This is a special bonus episode of This Moment in History, COVID-19 in Athens, Georgia. I want to give you a little bit of an introduction before we bring on our guest. So you're probably used to tuning into this show at around 1 o'clock. Our goal has been to provide you and the Historic Record with 55 episodes, talking to different community leaders so that we could document and explore how COVID-19 has shaped and affected our community. Along the way, we had a few episodes that had to be postponed, guests that had to cancel, and so that we could bring you the full 55 episode series, we've set up a few bonus episodes. The added bonus on that for us is that it's allowed us to reschedule with some folks that we really wanted to talk to, including today's guest, Mokah Jasmine Johnson. So we'll get to Mokah in just 1 second. For now, what I want you to know is that if you've not watched this program before, you should know this is not just something to sit back and watch. You can participate and help us shape this historic document very easily. All you need to do is comment below this video as long as we're live. So you can share a comment, words of encouragement, thoughts. Maybe you want to know more about AADM. Maybe you want to know more about Mokah's campaign. Maybe you want to know more about Mokah's background or about COVID-19. Whatever it is, just please share that question below the live video. We'll be able to pop it up on screen and make it part of today's discussion. The episode we're making up for had been originally sponsored by Peggy and Denny Gallus. So we really appreciate the Gallus family for their support for this project. And if you enjoy what you're watching today, please tune back in today at 1 o'clock and then 1 o'clock again through Friday when we wrap up with our final episode of the week this Friday with Commissioner Mariah Parker. So with that said, let's go ahead and get to our guest. Very excited for this conversation. I'm sure you are too. So I'm going to make some switches here. All right. And Mokah, hello, how are you?
Hey, how you doing? I'm doing good. Pretty good this morning, actually.
Pretty good. Well, I also can tell I'm talking to morning Mokah. You know, I think that the public, it's so funny because so many of the people I know like you that are excellent community leaders, you have levels, you know, like, so there's Mokah leading a protest of hundreds of, if not thousands of people. And then there's, hey, how are you? Chill.
Yeah, like, yeah. You have to get to know the dynamics of Mokah,
That's right. That's right. We're gonna get to all those dynamics. So, so Mokah, one of the things that we always tell our guests is that really in your answers today, you're speaking to two audiences. One is the hundreds of people that watch this each week. So in addition to the folks that we have live this morning, we usually have about 1,500 to 2,000 people that watch it throughout the week. But then we also have a second audience, which is future generations. Our goal is we're going to preserve this archive. They're going to come back. So I think every living person in Athens these days knows who you are. But I'd love to take a moment and really ask you to introduce yourself, because I want to make sure that if somebody's watching this 150 years in the future or something like that, that we know who you are. So, so Mokah, can you take a moment and just introduce yourself and outline your relationship to Athens, Georgia?
Okay, so I will repeat. My name is Mokah Jasmine Johnson. I'm an educator, I'm an activist, I'm a mother, and an entrepreneur, and I'm also running for Georgia State House District 117. I have resided in Athens approximately, I would say, about 8-9 years now, mostly on the west side of Athens. I have been involved in the community as I would say first when we moved to Athens in about 2011, 2012, towards that time, we jumped in as event producers. We have our own, my husband and I, Noah D. Johnson, we have our own event production and marketing company. And we started by producing the Athens Hip Hop Awards. This was already a part of our background from previous work that we have done in Orlando, Florida, and also in Atlanta. And so we had extensive background in organizing and working in the entertainment industry, from coordinating hip hop showcases, events, doing meet and greets with artists, publishing, different type of work, music marketing, different
Mhm.
stuff. So basically, that's what we jumped in, start doing in Athens, and the Hip Hop Awards was great. It was a way to bring, I would say, put a spotlight on all the different types of hip hop acts within Athens, Georgia. With the help of Montu Miller, when we first came here, he was like, "Y'all need to reach out to this person, that person." So we just hit the ground running, and we reached out to different people to make things happen. So unexpectedly, I would say towards the end of 2015, there was a drink, or there was a bar in downtown Athens.
Right.
I thought it was a great idea to create a drink called Niggerita. And basically, they were outed. It was published in the paper, in Flagpole newspaper. I remember reading the story, and I was like, "What?
Right.
Like, this is crazy! Like, I never seen anything like that." So, um, I was tired of sitting around. I knew discrimination, existed, racism existed. I'm a woman that deals with it, seeing it in different forms. But this particular blatant act made me jump into activism. And for
Mhm.
the first time, we organized an event, our first rally or protest on MLK Day in 2016, and hundreds attended. And we also, once again, reached out to different people in the community, to try to get support, which made it, a successful event. So
Right.
here we are today.
Yeah. That,
So
that,
here we are today in 2020.
yeah. And I'll say, for those of you, I know we're going to spend some time on Mocha's background. For those of you that want to find out more about Mokah, uh, I Mokah, even as I was saying, well, maybe 100 years from now, we'll need to introduce yourself. Your profile does keep growing. That may be less and less necessary. We Before we went on air today, we were talking about the fact that you're actually featured in some national press right now. I'm
Mhm.
gonna just bring that on screen here for a moment and get rid of me, because who cares about that? So this is Marie Claire, did an article about how to get involved in local politics. And then we scroll down, and right at the top of the article, when Mokah Jasmine Johnson learned that one of the bars in her community of Athens, Georgia, and then goes on to tell the story that you just shared, and a really great feature piece on you, and then also why what you represent, Mokah, is a good reason why people shouldn't be afraid to run, which brings me to the other part of our conversation, which yesterday when we were preparing for this interview, we were thinking back to conversations. I think, if I'm right, those conversations were probably like in 2016, where I wasn't alone. There were a number of people that thought, wow, she's incredible, she should run for something. But at the time, you weren't sure that was for you. How
Mhm.
did you evolve from that position of no, I'm more of a community organizer and producer and promoter, to a point where you felt that urgency, that fierce urgency of now to run?
I would say a lot of people really started to approach me in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
But it just wasn't necessarily for me, because I didn't look at myself as a politician, the
Mm-hmm.
image and what you see of a politician. And then you also see a politician has a bad rep. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? A lot of politicians have a bad rep for not voting for the people, mostly, political driven, career driven, power driven, capitalistic driven politicians, or
Right.
traditional politicians that we see.
Right.
So that's not something that I was interested in. Um, but I also, after work of doing activism, you have to engage in politics to spark change.
Right.
You have to start, going to the mayor and commission meeting, understanding how policy work. And a lot of the changes that we wanted to see, we were fighting for it on a local level, and we were making progress. But then our state representatives weren't aligned with the local vision.
Mm-hmm.
So, when they passed the bill to basically protect the Confederate monuments, and didn't vote for the hate crime bill.
Right.
Now it's different, but back then it really piqued my interest. Then the abortion bill, different bills that they voted for that I felt that were oppressive and they weren't equitable for our community. I was like, this, I can't just continue to sit by and not even jump in and try on a state level, because no matter how much work we do on a local level, state and federal laws will hinder us from truly making the progress that we want to see. And our leaders are the ones that come up with these laws and these policies and these bright ideas. You know what I mean? And present them in the House, and people vote on them, and then they become bills. So it's just so I decided that I just wanted to take a chance at trying to make a bigger stance and try to advocate for us on a state level, so that our local communities can have more control over what they do that can help everyone equally or equitably within a community. So it's another move to just step out on faith. I've made change. I've done some great stuff with the support of many people in the community. I couldn't do it by myself. But by collaborating with a lot of people, we've made progress in Athens, Georgia. So why not expand that and try to see what I can do on a state level with the same collaboration and the same momentum.
Right. Well, so it's interesting that you talk about limitations on laws, outside forces, because, for many of us, when we first met you, you were leading the charge, as you mentioned, for local civil rights ordinances and protections in the aftermath of the General Beauregard's incident. And, that incident was the catalyst, but it was really more only one part of a much larger system that you were concerned with, that we were concerned with. I'm flashing back to not just those first months of leadership that you and NOAA and AADM were providing, but I'm also flashing back to a more painful moment, which was, the night of the actual vote. I'm still thinking of the front of that newspaper cover. Progress was made. There's no doubt progress was made, but the full progress that we were asking for wasn't. The Civil Rights Committee that had been so carefully suggested and vetted, and with enormous amount of research that the community had brought forward on how these were working in other communities, that dream didn't happen that night. What did you learn from that experience, Mokah?
I mean, it was disappointing, but also, I had to try to look at it. I had to try to look at it as a win. It was a micro progression forward. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't enough. And as far as I know, that's why there's a current non-discrimination committee that was formed by the mayor and commission, and it's now brought back to the table, because it wasn't fair to just have the bars under a discrimination ordinance and not address the problem completely. So I was disappointed, but it also made me realize two things. I'm on the other side of the rail, and I'm continuously coming up here and fighting and asking these people to just do the right thing. It's like these are micro changes that can help our community as a whole. And those are times when I just start thinking, like, maybe I should run for office. Maybe all these people that are standing out here on the other side of the rail, we are the one that should be running for office, or should be sitting on the other side, because you guys are making decisions that are hurting us. You're continuously just making decisions that's not helping us to move forward. So that's what I walked away from, but I still took it as a victory, because it was better than nothing. That's how I felt about it. My mom has taught me, to just try to look at the cup instead of half empty, look at it half full.
Yeah. It's funny when I think back to everything that people have talked about in Athens politics. I don't know if there was a more important night than that night in the last decade. So just so for those of you that are following along in the comment section, I've shared a few links. I went ahead and shared the link to the Marie Claire article. I definitely recommend that. I just flashed that on screen here. I definitely recommend you following up with that and taking a look at that. I also went ahead and shared. I just found the article. It was November 2nd, 2016, and I'm sharing that right now. But I want to just flash it on screen, Mokah, just to stir up some memories here, because it's crazy to think of that as 4 years ago.
You know what I mean?
But so here's Mokah and Noah right on the front page. I made the front page of the paper on this article. As you said about progress made, the headline is passes anti-discrimination ordinance, lay groundwork for the creation of a committee. Here's my foolish self standing in line here, as part of the demonstration that we did.
Right.
But I think back to the more progressive commission that we have recently elected in the last few years. I think back to even recently, now it looks like as if appointed Commissioner Jesse Houle. Jesse was an outspoken part of that evening.
Yeah.
Made some headlines himself there. But I think that so many of the folks that are on the commission now were there that night,
Yes.
and so many of the candidates. So I mean, even in my race where I wasn't successful, both Ovita and I, both candidates in our race, were there to support you. Tim was there to support you. A4E was there to support you. The only other person we haven't managed to drag into candidacy from the night that I'm still waiting on is Broderick Flanagan someday.
I'm surprised if he eventually jump in, but at the same time, I will say that we still need activists on the other side.
That's
but
right.
We have to figure out how to work collaboratively. So that's a part of it too. It's like I will always be an activist,
Right.
even when I am in office. I will always be an activist because that's what brought me here. That's what taught me how to navigate politics and the governmental system. And it's like I've learned hands-on, not by just picking up a book and reading a history book and how to work politics. I had to learn by actually getting my hands dirty and sitting at the table with people that I traditionally wouldn't have. So I mean, I encourage people to just do what their heart leads them to do when it's right for them.
So I want to talk about the current times we're living in. That's what we're here for. I want to talk about COVID-19. I want to talk about the very large public demonstrations that you've been involved in the aftermath of. I've been trying to decide how to describe what's going on. I was going to say increased awareness of police brutality. I've heard some folks coin it the fed up protests, just because people are fed up. So I'm interested in how you describe it in a moment. But before we get into the present time, one last question about your background, Mokah. You are, once again, this model we're starting to see for local elected officials and increasingly national figures, people that started in music first, found their way as a community activist and organizer through that, especially through hip hop, and then has blossomed now into this role. I know that it was my time in hip hop and the time I got to spend in that community that shaped that for me. I know that obviously we have Commissioner Mariah Parker now. I have it on good authority that even Tim Denson has a hip hop mixtape hidden somewhere. But obviously came from a music background. What did your experience in music do to prepare you for the role you're in now?
I mean, when you're a musician, it's a lot of like spending time developing your craft and then executing without knowing how the outcome is going to be. You know what I mean? It's just like, I'm going to put my music out there, or I'm going to do this. I'm going to produce this show and hope 100 people come up to show up. So it builds like a certain self-determination, like an independence that you have, that you're pushing against the grain.
Right.
Like you're pushing against the odds. You're stepping out there. So you develop this thing to where I've developed really learning how to use my intuition to navigate through things because of that whole, entrepreneurial hip hop experience, because you're constantly putting yourself at risk.
Right.
You know, so that's what I carry into this world as an as an activist. I'm
Right.
constantly at risk. I'm constantly pushing the envelope. I'm constantly like not knowing how many people is going to show up at this rally. What is it going to be like? But I'm going to do it anyways. You know what I mean? I'm going to
Right.
produce this because I know that a message needs to be sent. And if one person show up, I'm still going to rock the mic. If 100 people show up, I'm still going to rock the mic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it gives you this self-confidence. It gives you this like, so what? You know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
like you fall, you get
Right.
up, you dust yourself back
Right.
off. What?
Right. No, it's funny. I was just what I was specifically thinking of is, so as I said, this is technically, I think, episode 44 because that was the episode we missed that we were making up for. But this is, the 52nd time I've sat down with someone and got them on this system. And what happened to you and I today before we went on air sometimes happens where we're just trying to get the person connected and get all that sorted out. And I was just thinking, because you may remember this, I was like, don't worry about it. We'll get it figured out.
Mhm.
And that "don't worry about it, we'll get it figured out" attitude is 100% a
Right.
hip hop attitude. It's like,
We're gonna do this.
it's 8:45. The doors open at 9. The other two acts aren't even there yet. No one's sound checked. But like that like
The
it's the
show is
workout.
going down, and
So
we gonna make the best of it.
that's right. That's right.
So
Um,
it's been a good experience. It's made me tougher, basically. It's made me tougher, and it's made me smarter. It's given me business sense.
yeah,
I started my first business when I was 21. You know what I mean? Coming out of high school. So it's just made me a smarter person and understand perseverance, how to continue through the tough times and
yeah.
step out on faith.
Yep, yep, yep. So speaking of stepping out, I see Vicky. Thank you for your comment, Vicky. Thank God Mokah started the Athens anti-discrimination movement way before this mess happened. This town was much more ready to address issues because we had already had this group as a mouthpiece for the people. Mokah, I don't know if I've ever thought of it that way, but your organization contributed to a conversation that now, because 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when this first started, Mokah, I'm sure you remember it. How many people kept coming up to us and saying like, "Oh, there's no racism in Athens, Georgia.
Right.
There's no discrimination in Athens, Georgia." And so through your work with AADM, through the sticker campaign, through the community conversations, the meetings at the library, everything that happened, it does seem that you helped this community go through the first painful steps. I don't think we're a fully formed adult yet, but we may be at the toddler phase at least, where we can walk some without falling on our face. What do you think about Vicky's comment here and this notion that we were more prepared than some communities for the nationwide moment on race we're having right now, thanks to the work that AADM has been doing locally for years now?
I mean, I think there's truth to that. There's really truth to that. It's not a sense I try to be, I don't like bragging. That's not normal in hip hop. You usually brag, you know what I'm saying? But I don't like bragging. But prior to that, there was not such a movement going on in Athens. There was people like didn't even want to come downtown and come to the hip hop events because they said they had bad experiences. People were discriminating against them based on dress code,
Right.
or club owners wouldn't allow them to rent out the venues. Even when we did the first hip hop awards, we had like a high insurance thing we had to take out because it was a hip hop event. So
Right.
type of things deter you. So, it's truth there. When we jumped into it, there was nothing there that was stirring the pot. Everybody just wanted to go with the flow. And I was tired. We're complaining about it. We're talking about it in our circle, but we're not doing anything about it. So I was just tired of talking. I wanted to take action. So by doing so, yes, we have stirred the pot. That's why we even have an inclusion office. That's why we have a cash bail ordinance. That's why right now I'm the chair of a police advisory task force, to develop a police advisory review board that, can help address certain things in the community. That's why certain things are happening and people don't even know how much we're behind those things.
Right.
And it took a lot of volunteer hours. It took a lot of sleepless nights. a lot of frustration, a lot of movement. You were there even with the sticker campaign, and people were saying, racism, we don't have a problem of racism. You're causing the problem. You would
Right.
hear some of that, or then people were trying to say, oh, you're a troublemaker.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I'm gonna accept all of that. If you
Right.
believe racism doesn't exist, remember we're doing a sticker campaign, and that's when you realize, like, whoa, some people don't even want a sticker
Right.
on their window to say you unite against discrimination.
Right.
You know what I mean? In
Yeah,
Athens,
I want to make sure the audience fully knows what you're referring to here. So, one of the more brilliant and I think defining initiatives that AADM took on, and I'm glad you brought up the MLK Day Parade. That's become a fixture now in the community. Obviously, Historic Athens is very happy about that. It's a great moment to celebrate history. But the sticker campaign was really important. It was useful. You started out this process. You had these stickers, and as you just said, it was very simple. You'd go up to a business and you'd say, "Hey, can we put a sticker on your window that says everyone's welcome here and that discrimination isn't welcomed here?" And you would think that 100% of businesses, well, you wouldn't think that, but some people would think, well, of course, everyone's going to say yes to that. But that wasn't the experience. We met a lot of good businesses that were supportive. But what did you learn from that experience, Mokah?
I learned that Athens need a lot of work, and people want to simulate unity. They want to simulate as if we're all getting along, and this is a town to where racism doesn't exist. But we have some problems. If you go to a business and they don't want to put a sticker that says United Against Discrimination on their window, that makes you think, why not? Like, what, so where do I live? Once again. So it just made me realize that a lot of us had swept the dirt under the rug,
right,
and just covered it up,
right,
and was just functioning, but
right,
it needed to be addressed. And I also see a comment that Deborah Gonzalez said. She said,
yeah, I'm going to bring this on screen.
yeah.
Right.
She said, keep stirring the pot. Racism is alive and well in Athens, unfortunately, even if so many do not want to acknowledge the truth. And that's a shame. That's why we cannot make progress, because people don't want to acknowledge it. They rather close their ears. They don't want to hear Black Lives Matters,
Right.
And act as if it doesn't exist, but this time around, in this next, it's not going away.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm going to keep stirring the pot.
Yep, sure. Thank you, Deborah, for the comment, and thanks for tuning in. Yeah, so it is I think it's time for us to transition, or we're going to run out of time to talk about COVID-19 and everything else. I need to take 60 seconds. So our audience, I see we've got about 24 folks here. Stick with us. I need to very quickly take 60 seconds, thank our annual sponsors, and then we're going to dive fully into COVID-19 and this moment in history with Mokah. So don't go anywhere. Give us 1 second here. The folks you see on screen here, these are the names of our annual sponsors. These are the people that, thanks to them, year round, we keep our lights on. Our team is able to stay supported thanks to the folks you see here. So if you see a business here that you can support, or a neighbor that you can thank, please do so. We also are supported through the efforts of our membership. I know AADM has membership. We have membership. We definitely support membership in all of the above. Membership with us begins at only $5 a month. And you can find out more about being a member or sponsor at historicathens.com. Tonight at 6 o'clock, we're continuing our evening series of live casts. That's just this week to celebrate our 51st annual Historic Athens Preservation Awards. Tonight we'll be talking about a rear addition that was made at a house called the Lester House, the work that was done to rehab the old Greyhound station that has become Chuck's Fish, and the Stewardship Award for the buildings that form the heart of a lot of the Bottle Works area, the Grit, Daily Groceries, and Go Bar. As we mentioned, this morning, this conversation is one of 55 interviews. If you'd like to go back and see any of those previous episodes, here are the names of our interviewees. Deborah Gonzalez, who was one of the people mentioned, was on one of our first episodes. It's still one of our most watched episodes. You can find that in the videos section. And then at 2 o'clock today, after our regular 1 o'clock live cast, you can head over to the Facebook page for our our page for the Athens Welcome Center and their daily 2 p.m. live casts. So we know a lot of you are stuck in the house. We're trying to keep programming out to you so that we can continue to educate and advocate as part of our 52-year-old mission as a 501c3. Last note before going back to Mokah is if you're looking for a quick and easy way to support Historic Athens, you can go to historicathens.com, where we have a limited edition run of t-shirts celebrating Boulevard Historic District, Rock Springs Historic District, and landmarks and buildings of Athens. You can pick those up. They're locally printed and locally designed. And so we'd love to have your support. Okay, so Mokah, I know nobody maybe in Athens knows more than you do the importance of saying thank you, because I know you have so many members and supporters and stakeholders. If somebody is watching this and they're interested in getting more involved in AADM or your campaign, what can you let them know beyond the sign that is right behind you?
Okay, well, first I would say if you want to get involved with the Athens anti-discrimination movement, please visit our website at www.aadmovement.org. On Thursday, 5:30 at City Hall, we're having a Justice for Black Lives Protest Part 2, Confronting Racial Injustices at City Hall, 5:30. That's another way you can get involved right away. You know, stand with us. We're going to practice social distancing. We're going to make sure that there's masks, hand sanitizers, all those great things are available. So you can take action today simply by going on our website, clicking the join or get involved tab, or you can show up at City Hall tomorrow at 5:30 and join us. You know, it's going to be a very interesting day at City Hall. We're advocating for police accountability. We're advocating for the Confederate Monument statue to be moved, and we need to have a serious discussion about racial injustices that continues to perpetuate throughout our community and hinder us from making progress. If you want to get involved with the Mokah for Georgia campaign, hey, you can go to my website at www.mokah, MOKAH, Georgia.com. You can volunteer, make a donation. You can volunteer, do what you can to get involved in that as well and learn more about, you know, what my campaign is about as well.
Great. So Mokah, I am sharing another link that is going to form the last 20 minutes of our conversation or so, because I really wanted to ask how COVID-19 has affected you. I also know that you're doing current work right now about the Black Lives Matter movement and about justice. And so I just shared, for those of you that are viewing our comment section, the link to the Banner Herald article after your last demonstration drew thousands to downtown Athens. I know you mentioned social distancing. As you can tell from a lot of the photos, especially earlier in the day, this demonstration managed to do something that many thought was impossible, which is you managed to draw thousands of people that then did follow social distancing protocol. And you can see it in the aerial shots where people really are staying 6 feet away from each other. Masks are being used. So this seems like the perfect time to ask you two questions at once, Mokah. One, which is, how is your organization handling the current moments, the current discussion on racial justice? But also, how has COVID-19 affected your work? And it seems like those two things overlap when we think about that demonstration. So can you talk about the racial justice moment we're having, but also COVID-19?
Yeah, I mean, right now, you know, we have to still, we still have to protest and rally, and we have to find alternative ways of doing that. You know, there was just too much going on for me to not organize this rally. First with Ahmaud Arbery, when that situation happened, we wanted to do something. So we tried to do it virtually, make everybody, you know, basically make everybody try to do a run within their neighborhood individually at a certain time. Mm-hmm. But after George Floyd, we realized that, you know, despite the fact that there's COVID-19, we have to mobilize in a larger way. And you already saw what was happening throughout the nation, from Atlanta and different places. So I know that our organization is one of the leading organizations to do protests, you know, and so we wanted to do this in a safe way as much as possible. But COVID-19 has made things a little bit more difficult. but it has made you analyze how can you really function in a different way, and
Right.
maybe in a safer and healthier way. Because right now, like with you and I having this conversation, online as opposed to in person, where we
Right.
might have had like 50 or more people there,
Right.
So it's changed life. It's made me look at my personal life as an activist. It's made me slow down some, you know what I mean?
Right.
Definitely slow down a lot, because all those meetings we were having, so it's impacted us in a lot of different ways, but we
Right.
just found, creative ways of still doing the work.
Right. Creative ways of still doing the work. So let's talk about some of those creative ways, Mokah. So let's zoom back for a second. So I want you to flash back. I know it feels like a lifetime ago, but let's talk about early March. Okay, so it's early March. You are in the midst of preparing. You run for office. You are leading AADM. You're a parent. You have so many things going on, and then COVID hits, and all of a sudden we're being asked to shelter in place. We're asked to learn all these new terms, these new procedures. How did you handle that moment?
I mean, I sheltered in place right away.
Right.
I was fortunate enough because you already, kind of know we're self-employed, but it impacted us where we lost all our income for like the first, I would say 6 weeks, no income. Like, I mean, it just disappeared because, my husband, he does a lot of graphic designs and consulting for people that are having events as well. You
Right.
know what I mean? And we were planning the hip hop awards,
Right.
in the middle of planning for the Mlk Day Parade, and then all of a sudden everything just closed down.
Right.
So I mean, even my daughter, had to stay at home. It's her senior year. She's freaking out. It was a lot. It's a lot to adjust to. And then, we were in the middle of canvassing, with the campaign. That also stopped. So it took me 30 days to kind of, get my mind together and readjust to what is happening and
Right.
how we're going to move forward. And the first priority was just making sure my daughter was okay, making sure my household was okay. The first 2 weeks, that's what it was like. And then trying to transition back into doing some of the work dealing with AADM and my campaign and what is that going to look like. And
Right.
everything just went virtual. Everything went virtual. So that's what it's been like. We're just like really getting into this system right now. And now it's like everything is opening back up. And I'm like, maybe it's too soon. Let's keep doing the
Right.
virtual stuff and, protests here and there, but let's just try to still be safe.
Well, and so you just raised something interesting here, which is, I mean, you are working on urgent social justice work. There's never been a time like the current moment where people want to be outside in the streets protesting. But many folks are also trying to juggle whether it's time to come outside yet, whether when it's safe. I know that you have a family that you're concerned about. How are you managing that juggle between the need to produce a better world, but also the need to stay safe?
Yeah, I mean, definitely wearing a mask a lot. When we go out, I have hand sanitizers on me. Now I have a fanny pack.
Right. Right.
I don't have my purse anymore. I have a fanny pack, and in my fanny pack, I have my mask. I have gloves in the car, and I have my hand sanitizers inside the fanny pack. I have like maybe 1 or 2 gloves in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
So that's mobile sanitation type thing. And then also like the protest that we had a couple weeks ago, I spaced it out to where I didn't have another one for like 2 weeks later, which is
Right.
going to be tomorrow. So that 14-day of quarantining. So if I'm in a situation where I'm around a group of people that's more than 15 people, I will self-quarantine and not go around anyone else for maybe like 10 to 14 days, just me and Noah back in the house, doing minimal stuff, but we're not around that group of people. So that's been our cycle. It's been working. It's been working safely. But like I said, when the mayor and commission decided to shut things down and asked everyone to stay in place, we were one of the, families that were fortunately able to do so.
Right.
And deal with the crisis as it is.
So I know you mentioned your daughter. when we talk about people that might be destined to run for office at one point, I know that there's some. I feel like there's some potential there. We had the chance. Anyone who had the chance, whether virtually or in person, to watch the protest we've been talking about. I think the audience got a taste of that activism might be a genetic trait over in your household. How has this affected? I know you mentioned high school and the challenges there. How has this affected your family? I mean, just having to navigate this. I know you mentioned that thankfully you've been able to work from home, but what about youthful activism or any of those things?
I mean, it's made us, I would say, definitely closer, you know, because like I said, I was ripping and running. So I was like a workaholic mom.
Right.
COVID turned my workaholism into the house and trying to figure out how to navigate things in another way. So it's definitely made us closer. I would say for my daughter, it's been it's been good for her, but it's also been rough trying to navigate transitioning from high school to college during COVID, and you know, trying to get her situated to where she has her dorm, doing the financial aid, staying on top of her. Now she's also going virtually online, and I can see that motivation is not as high as I'm going away to college and I'm going to be on a dorm. So it's like, you know, I'm still being a parent. I'm still being a parent in the midst of all this, trying to make sure that my daughter is okay. I have another daughter that has a baby on the way, so we have grandkids popping up everywhere.
Right.
You know, and in the midst of all of that, still working with the youth in the community. We just took several boys to a short camping trip, a 24-hour camping trip.
Yep.
And they were so thankful. They were like, since school, you know, has been closed and they've been home, and these kids want to get out. And so we're engaging with the youth. I'm still being a mom. I'm doing all of these things during COVID. So just trying to figure out how to navigate this all, especially till November, you know?
Right.
And I'm hoping that my daughter will be able to start school in August.
So, well, we hope that too. So, all right, we have about 10 minutes together. There are 3 questions we like to ask each guest as we go. So I think we should save 5 minutes for that, but I want to take 5 minutes. I know it's not enough time, but I'd like to just take 5 minutes and get your perspective on the racial justice moment we're in, not just locally, but nationally. It seems to me that we are seeing a reckoning on a scale that I'm not sure our country has seen in a very long time. It seems like we've reached a critical mass of push and pull, but that doesn't mean it's been necessarily an easy time. What's your perspective on, racial justice right now in June 2020?
I think that is, I think what we're seeing right now is needed. Mm-hmm. No matter what people say, we're like, no one is necessarily happy about the vandalism or the destruction of property and that kind of stuff. But I ask people, were we listening before? Right. When Kaepernick got on his knee and peacefully protested, that man was condemned. He lost his job, as if he did the worst thing in the world. When Martin Luther King was marching peacefully and they let the dogs on the protesters and water hose, so peaceful protest, I believe in peaceful protest, but I don't believe in telling people how to protest, So I believe that what we see right now is needed. And if America wants peace, they must give us justice. And I don't think that it's going to go away anytime soon, because I mean, even like you said, when my daughter spoke at the protest a couple of weeks ago, right? That's her first time ever asking me to speak at an event. And I was surprised, based on the conversation we previously had. When she was on stage, she showed the anger, the frustration that the youth has. There were several other youth that people might not have recognized that were standing on stage with her. And when she got off, there was so many kids that was at the side of the stage, and they're angry. At the same time, they want change. They want something different. So I believe that now is the time that if we want to see a shift, we got to keep the pressure on. We can't let up the pressure, or it's not going to change. It's not going to change. And we need to make sure the representatives that are now co-signing this, they're genuine and they're going to go all the way through beyond November. Everyone needs to be held accountable. This can't be a thing to where you check it off, or it's a capitalistic thing where you say, oh, we can make money off of this if we put a Black Lives Matters thing in our store. No,
Right.
Genuine about it. That's what we're going to make sure this time around. And it's going to take time. It's not going to happen in a few months. The pressure got to stay on for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So I hope that people understand that, you know?
That's right. And I think that closing out that area of the conversation, it's worth noting that if these are the fed up protests, then some people seem to be fed up about the fed up protests. But it's interesting because, you know, if you look at the length of time of the Montgomery bus boycotts, you look at the time of so many important protest moments in this country, some of them went on for more than a year. Mm-hmm. And it is interesting that this moment, this nationwide moment, which seems to have only been a few months, there are people that are just kind of hoping that it'll go away. Your prediction seems to be that it will not.
Unless America wants peace, they must give us justice. It is not going to go away just because it's uncomfortable right now. I always try to give people this analogy. It took me 9 months to carry and bear a child. And it was one of the most painful experiences that I've had. I've had moments like, why am I doing this? My body hurts. But in the end, it's this beautiful child that has life. They have a chance to grow, to live, to give a new example. It was painful in that labor room. But there's another human being that has a chance to like develop the world in a whole new perspective. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we have to go through those uncomfortable moments. It's not going to go away because we want it to go away. If America wants peace, they must give us justice and equity. You know what I mean? And I advise everyone to continue the fight. Do not let them use fear to silence us. This is First Amendment right to protest. Okay, peacefully, however you want to do it, but do not be silent and do not let fear hinder you, because that's another strategy that they're trying to use, you know, continuously throughout history, you know, fear, you know, deception, division. This is not the time for that. This is a time for us to stand united across the color spectrum, not just about Black lives, all across. Yes, Black lives is important, and that's why we say it. But collaboratively, if we want to see change in the area of racial justice, it has to be a rainbow of people that stands together, united, and say we're tired of seeing Black and brown people be taken advantage of, and we want justice for everyone.
Excellent. Well, I that would be the perfect note to end the interview on, but we got to keep going just for a couple minutes here. So Mokah, we have 3 final questions we're going to ask you. Okay. And I just want to say here, I'm going to let you soak this comment in, Mokah, that's on screen here from Jennifer. So following the footsteps is right. Absolutely. And thank you, Jennifer, for sharing the comment. The world needs more Mokah Johnsons. Fortunately, they're making there's at least one more in the process of being developed right now. So thank you very much. All right, Mokah, final 3 questions here. First, if tomorrow this was all over, I could wave a magic wand, you'd wake up, social distancing wasn't necessary anymore, every business that you know and love was opened, every park was open, movie theater, everything. Let's say you, as busy as you are, managed to have the day off. How would you spend that day? Where would you go?
I would spend that day traveling to Orlando, Florida, to spend it with my parents that are 70, like 79, 78, 79 years old. My mom is going through dementia right now. My dad is getting older. It wears and tears on me. So that's the first thing I would do. I would pack up my bags, get in the car, and go see my parents.
Wow. Well, I'm sorry to hear about your mom, but that sounds like a beautiful way to spend the day. The second to last question is this. Part of what Historic Athens does is historic preservation. We want, if somebody's watching this interview, Mokah, 50 years from now, we want them to be able to go outside and still experience historic places. And we know that, after we get through this pandemic, we'll likely be coming out of a recession. Post-recession, sometimes people are eager to just build, even if it means knocking down some important things. And so we've been asking each of our guests to name some of their favorite historic places or areas of town, ones that you hope 50 years from now are still in place. Is there any place like that that comes to mind for you?
I mean, when you first brought it up, I guess Morton Theater.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Morton Theater, I learned a lot just walking through that building, and it holds on to, I guess the good old days,
Right.
of what a theater was like. So it's not this fancy new theater. It has this feel to it. So I would say more in theater. I
Absolutely.
also like that bridge behind Mama Boys. I
Mm-hmm.
think REM back in the days, or some music group took a picture, and it used to be a railroad track. It
Mm-hmm.
was by Dudley Park. But I can't remember the name of that well-known bridge, but I like spending time over there as well.
Well, that's great. Yeah, the trestle that's called the REM trestle because it was featured on one of their albums. That's a great one. Thank you. All right, so then Mokah, my last question, and don't feel rushed for time. I know that you're probably very busy, but you can answer this question as long or in whatever way you want. But Mokah, if somebody's watching this interview 100 years from now, what should they know about this moment in Athens history?
Hmm. That's a really good question. This moment in Athens history is truly a time to where we can make some serious change. We can make some serious progress towards not just racial justice, but racial and social justice. We can
Mhm.
address many problems if we allow ourselves to be uncomfortable enough, then deal with the truth, the historical truth, and really start to make different approaches to address these problems. So we need to use a different strategy, and I think right now we have a more progressive mayor and commission. We have many activists that's in the community, or I would say community organizers, because not everyone wants to call themselves an activist,
Sure.
but community organizers that are being vocal. And I'm proud of the professors, even at UGA, that's challenging the system. You know what I mean? That's like, no, this isn't right. So I think now is a time to where we can really change Athens and use it as a model to what a city should be like that's trying to make progress towards true racial justice.
Hmm. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And also thank you for sharing your time with us today, Mokah. We really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us.
Well, thank you for having me, Tommy. It's always nice talking to you. And thank you, everyone that's tuned in. And I want to say what's up to Jennifer and Girls Rock, because
Yes.
that's been also
Absolutely.
another organization that has made difference in a lot of different, young people lives. And Daylin was a part of that summer, working there for like 4 summers, so 4 years almost, so
Wow. Well,
there's
that
people
explains some of
in
the.
this community that helped me raise my child.
Well, I was going to say, when you said that that's the first time that Dalen's asked to speak, I was going to say she had some serious stage presence right away, and so it's good to know where some of that stage presence might have come from with Girls Rock Athens. So, all right, so Mokah, you and I are going to log off together. To everyone else that's out there, please feel free to tune back in if you'd like to today. We will be back at 1 o'clock with today's interview with Rashi of Rashi's Cuisine. And so we definitely would love for you to tune back in. And we know that Rashi's had some recent developments in her business. And so we were excited about talking about that, which hopefully gives me more options to eat Rashi's Cuisine. So, yeah, so we'll be back at 1 o'clock. Thank you. Stay safe. And please stay tuned in. So, Mokah, thanks again. You and I are going to hop off air. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.